Hello there, Atheist Junior here, your friend and humble narrator, and I'm back with second stream of the day, second debate review, and today I'm watching another one of one of the best debates that I've seen this year, which was Evan, and Kennedy are some of my new friends, and they do a show on Twitch. Both of them have debated Kent Hovind, and I gave Kennedy a lot of notes about his debate. We talked on Discord and Twitter chat and sent memes and flirted. It was a lot of fun. And now we're going to look at Evan's debate because I have a lot to say about this one. So Evan, why don't you introduce yourself and for anybody who might not be familiar with you guys.
Hi, I'm Evan. I'm an electrical engineer by trade. I'm also one of the three hosts for the show, Never Game Over. The other host being Kennedy, and the third being someone none of you have met yet, unfortunately, which is Scarlett. As I said, I'm the engineer. Kennedy is the anthropologist and sociologist, and Scarlett is the economist of our group. We tackle a lot of conversations about like race, ethnicity. We talk about what a stateless state looks like sometimes. There are some times where we kind of get into that next level conversation that most people can't follow because we're just kind of talking nonsense, but it's a lot of fun. And, we're really excited to kind of get things going. I'm really glad that people like this debate I had. I'm hoping that it kind of gets some people into our audience so we can start to chat and, expand those conversations out. I'd love to hear from people. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on here, AJ.
Absolutely. Kennedy, did you want to say something real quick before we get started?
Sure. Thank you for that great intro, Evan. It's wonderful, as you usually are. Just grateful to be here. I'm happy to be listening. My name is Kennedy. We're a part of Never Game Over, a stream that is going over exactly what Evan talked about. So we have three people here that come from very different backgrounds, but are tackling serious political, logical, philosophical conversations in our day-to-day while we stream games, if we can manage it. And so that's the point of our channel. And we're open to, we have a Discord so that we're open to communication from the larger communities. We're just hoping that we can review this here, and I'm happy to be here, and we'll see where we can make some of our debates better. And I was happy to connect with AJ, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you all, who's ever's listening.
Yeah, me and Kennedy had some really good discussions about his debate and just other things, and talking about how it's really good to get some more diverse faces into the sort of evolution creation debate space, which I've said in the last the Grayson video that the more voices that we have basically against misinformation, but really Kent specifically because he's just an asshole, I'm always going to support that. So I am not going to waste any more time. So let's just get into it.
From now, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, if that tree's still there. Right?
Correct. Pretty sure there's only a few choices, so we'll go from there, because at this point, this is, I think, as good as we're going to go.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pause the echo cancellation that might be causing some issues. So going into this, one of the first thoughts I had was that I knew that I wasn't going to actually push Kent on anything. And the people who are really in his audience, I wasn't going to push. So I really wanted to come across as this really positive figure who was humble and interested in actually arriving at some serious conclusion. So what that looked like in the debate was me constantly pointing out what I'm not an expert in. That was part of a larger rhetorical strategy that didn't pan out. It ended up making me look weak, and it kind of sucks. But what I wanted was for him to, at some point, make some grand claim, and then I could be like, wait, I'm sorry, what's your degree in? Did you study that? And I literally was this close to throwing that card on the table when he started talking about planets and shit. And, I'm really sad that I missed that opportunity because that'd been great. But, as we go through and we watch this, I think my weakest moments are when I stick to that strategy a little too hard. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I never thought that you came off as weak, and you got the jab in about taxes, which was very subtle, and I really enjoyed that. So I think that makes up for it.
thank you. My mic's own settings.
No, you're coming in good now. I would just recommend speaking up a little bit when you're asking Kent questions. So let's try now. Try, if you could, reiterate your first points that you made, and if you could re-ask the question. So I'm going to start the timer now, and okay, here we go.
Okay, can you hear me, Kent? Is this like a good volume?
Yes, sir. Sounds good.
Okay. So I don't know if you heard this. I complimented your presentation. I think it's a really good one.
Well, I didn't understand a word of that. Say that again, slower.
I'm positive he was fucking with me. He and Donnie were both messing with me at this point. I was just complimenting.
Yeah.
Like they were fishing for shit, and that I should have just known. You know what I mean?
Well, Kent kind of says that in so many debates. He says, "Oh, I can't hear you," which is a side effect of people who've had strokes. So who knows?
Okay. So maybe he wasn't fucking with me then.
It's possible, but then again, the guy refuses to wear headphones during any of these debates, so it's kind of on him at some point, you know.
Your presentation, I think it's a really good presentation.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I was just going to ask, what do you mean by observable? Like, do you mean like if you close your eyes and turn off the clocks, then time doesn't exist, or what do you mean by that?
Well, science deals with things we can observe. What do we see? And there's different ways to know things through our eyes. We have 5 senses that lead into our brain: sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. And so those are the only evidences we can really go by as far as science goes. You can observe when you can watch. When you crossbreed cows, they produce a cow. Now you can imagine in the brain, you can think about and imagine that it was different in the past, but that's no longer observable science.
Well, hold on. I just want to be specific here to like focus on this one thing. When we're talking specifically about time, if we close off all of our senses, we put ourselves in a deprivation tank, if you will, does time still exist? If we remove our ability to observe it, is it still there?
Yeah. Time does not stop for us. Okay, it doesn't care about us at all. Time.
So then you acknowledge then that things happen outside of our immediate perception, right?
Correct.
I was so glad I got to say that. The things that I was so glad I got to say that.
And this is huge. This is really good that you started off the debate undercutting Kent's argument here, because it completely cuts the legs out from his whole like debate strategy, because he constantly is just saying, "Oh, well, all we've observed is dogs produce dogs. That's all we've seen. And science is observe, study, test." He's got his fucking talking points just memorized that he repeats again and again and again. So this is really good that you cut off one of his biggest talking points right here, because then every time he has to go back to that, now it's going to make him look bad. And Mark Reed did something similar in one of his debates against Kent. Was he kept telling Kent that evolution isn't chance, natural selection isn't chance, mutations are random chance, but the selection pressures and the process of natural selection is deterministic. And then after that, you could see Kent hesitating when he went to he wanted to go to his script, but he knew like that he couldn't, basically. So this is really good. So points for this one.
Thank you. You know, that's a pretty interesting thing that Mark did. I need to watch more Mark stuff. But
yeah, Mark is an awesome guy, and you know, me and him have done several videos together. We did a mock debate where I pretended to be a creationist, and I definitely won. According to the comment section, they all thought I won. But yeah, he is an awesome debater. I would not want to be across from him. So
we may not be able to leave traces that we can then see later on in time.
Sometimes they do. Yep, you're right. I could walk through the woods and find a tree that fell down 5 years ago. I didn't see it fall, but I would conclude it fell.
Exactly. Now, one way, speaking of trees, one way that I know that we can track time is by looking at the rings on a tree. Now, obviously, you're not going to find a tree that's 1 million or 1 billion or 4 billion years old, but you are going to find a tree that's quite old. Do you agree that you can track the passage of time through tree rings? Pause it.
No, sir.
Oh,
It's been
God,
demonstrated.
pause it. Ooh, okay. So this part right here I knew was scary because, like, I had to mention time as this, like, abstract thing that you can track without being specific about how well you can quantify that, if that makes any sense. Because immediately what Kent does upon me mentioning the trees is he points out that you can't accurately track it annually. He claims it's a seasonal thing. And I knew he was going to do that because it's the stuff that my family used to do. So I was like, you can kind of see it in my face, like right here where we paused. I am panicking because I'm like, I have to make this land what I say next when I push back on him on this.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that, though, because Kent isn't even listening to anything you're saying. You can tell that because he says this thing about, oh, they're not annual rings over and over and over again, even though you keep saying, I never said they're annual. He thinks you're making a different argument than you're actually making. Because he's so locked into that script.
Okay, so what I was really doing here, see, I thought I had broken him from the script, like, at the beginning with my intro, but he couldn't hear it. Dang, so I was really arguing with the script here. I wasn't even talking to this guy.
Well, I mean, in fairness, Kent doesn't listen to anybody during debates. He's literally just waiting for his turn to talk.
Damn, that kind of sucks.
No, I think you did. I think it makes him look bad. I think you, again, I think this is really good because it shows that you're trying to present an argument and he's not even engaging with you.
Hundreds of times the tree rings are seasonal. You can get you can get a big ring in the spring when you get a lot of rain, have a dry summer, produce a hard ring, have a wet fall, produce another soft ring.
But the rings are still there and you can still track the progression of time through them, right?
The rings are there, but they're not necessarily annual rings. They might be.
I didn't say they were annual. I just said you can see the passage of time.
I would say the outer ring was produced after the one under it. I think there's a sequence that I don't think that could be undone, but they're not necessarily annual. And the old.
I mean, did you see it? He literally just did it like 2 times in a row. Like he's literally not listening to you.
Yeah, I keep like looking down to see what Donnie's doing, and he has this like face. It's
yeah, man. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, I was kind of like towards the end of the debate, I was getting kind of miffed with Donnie because Kent and I kept going in these circles, and it's kind of like the moderator's job to make sure that the conversation's actually moving along. Like, I don't know, I know absolutely nothing about like Donnie or his channel or anything. This was mostly Kennedy's idea, mostly his like looking into this stuff. But like, I really thought that I would be going into this and I would have a moderator who was probably sided with Kent, but would be like, you have to move on from this. You have to acknowledge what he's saying here.
No.
And that was like really frustrating.
I have to say, I mean, for somebody who wasn't familiar with Kent and wasn't really familiar with, hadn't gone back and watched a lot of his debates. Like I've seen like literally all of his debates. Like I watch all of Kent's videos for some reason. Well, it's kind of like part of, I consider it part of my job basically, but you did really well for somebody who, because there's a lot of people who come in and they don't know Kent's game. They don't know his tricks. They don't know how intellectually dishonest he is. And they come in and they are nice to Kent. They're jovial, and he takes advantage of that by controlling the flow of the debate, controlling what topic you guys talk about. And I think you're being like a little bit hard on yourself because for somebody who came in not really knowing his game, like I thought you did an amazing job. And Donnie is a shit moderator. He doesn't moderate.
Yeah.
Anybody will tell you that. You know, he's biased. It's just obvious.
Yeah, that's fair.
This tree ring count is about 4,500 years, which the Bible would say there was a flood 4,400 years ago, and of course some trees might have survived the flood. Some parts of the world might have only been underwater for a few weeks, long enough to drown everybody. Noah's in the ark for a year.
I literally, when he said that, like, I felt my brain do that, like, record skip thing where you're like, was the flood gentle? You know? Like I'm an engineer, right? There's no way that you can fill a volume the size of the earth, like, gently. You know, like, there's not anything left, my guy. It's all gone.
Yeah. I was talking with somebody about this the other day because it was driving me crazy trying to logically figure out Kent's argument, because he had said, I forget which debate it was, but he was saying how that during the global flood, that there would have been, that not every area on the earth was flooded, that there were some areas that would have been only flooded for 3 weeks, even though the flood lasted a year. And I'm like, that's not possible.
Yeah.
How can you have an area that's not flooded? What's stopping the water from coming into that area that's got less water?
Yeah.
Like nothing. And
I think that's where like people like us have like mini mental breakdowns, because like we're not capable of like injecting that much fantasy into like reality. Like, we need to actually see these things. And like at one point, I think in the debate, I talk about how, like, if we're just going to keep ignoring what things mean, then I might as well just say I believe it's Superman. And like that's really all this stuff is like, they're doing the thing kids do where they're like, oh yeah, well, my superpower is better because I freeze you or something.
Yeah.
And it's infuriating.
Well, I saw Kent was doing the same thing when he debated Kennedy, is that because Kennedy came in and you had some really specific arguments that you want to talk about. And when you're like done talking, Kent just goes to like his response is just his canned talking point. And it's like, he's not even referencing anything that was just said, because he's really not listening. He's just sort of waiting for his turn to spout his propaganda. He's like one of those dolls that you pull the string on the back and it says a catchphrase.
If I may,
go ahead.
With what you said about like the circularity of how you felt, because that is something I mean, I think most, if not all of, like, he finds a way. I think most creationists find a way to make their debate eventually circular, because that's sort of how the topology of the thing that exists is. It has to eventually get circular. And so, like, yeah, as you know, when we talked about it, my only critique with that and trying to work with someone like that is when you get to, like, a lot of the reason I even stepped into this stream is because when you get into all the circular, our realities don't mix. You have this definition of reality you're presenting, and I'm presenting mine. Like, at that point for me, it is, and that obviously could be because of my background, right? I'm a Black person walking into a space that's overwhelmingly white. So like, when it breaks down in that moment, that for me is when it becomes political extremely. Like right now, okay, so you don't accept my reality and I don't accept yours, but we live here together. And like, that's where, like, if we, because you have two options, I feel like, in those moments. Push on the fact that my reality makes more sense, or try to get the person vulnerable enough to admit that, like, the fact that your reality is different than mine is sillier for how we should exist in society. Like right now, like, that's the point that I try to drive more. And in my debate, I talked a lot about how there are people who aren't atheists who believe in what I believe. That was my biggest contention point that I drove back and forth. Mm-hmm. And it's hard, and I'm curious about where you'll go from this, and both of you all and everyone that's debating someone like that. Like, where do you think, when you feel like it's circular? Because I didn't feel like things when he got to that point, I felt like, well, okay, you've just let this go. You don't want to talk about how this is vulnerable, but I didn't feel like he got me to then double down on something I said to then be circular, right? He didn't go back to, here's this anthropological thing, and here's how I'm connecting it to something, right? He did that a lot he can do that with scientific stuff about dates and time. If you allow him to meet on the reality that his thing that he's talking about is justifiable in a space. And if what I try to do in those moments is break, and I think that's something that might be more interesting to see happen more, because like when I watch these debates over and over again, like as someone who studied biology in school, it like is sort of like, oh my God, I wish some of these people would just take a class. You know, like if you take a biology class in community college, none of these arguments would matter. But the reason they do is because of a political reason that Kent matters. Like Kent doesn't matter in Canada as much or any Middle Eastern country for a reason that has nothing to do with the logics of his belief or ours. And like,
you know, it was weird that that so much of the debate you did with Kent was like the things he was saying right from the beginning. It was like they were like racially like tinged. A lot of the shit he was saying was like either racist or just like
so close. You were there. It didn't pass the smell test. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like the choice of animal. He always talks about dogs, but with Kennedy, he's like, why is he brings up chickens, and he asks him if is it cannibalism if you eat a chicken? Why are you talking about chickens, Kent? Like, and then he brings up his slide. I thought the way you handled it was really good. When Kent brought up his slides talking about like Hitler and it's showing the word Negro on the screen. I thought you handled it with like comedy and just like taking the piss out of it, because Kent tries to do that type of thing. He did the same thing with me when I debated him. He tried to attack me for being LGBT, and I just basically didn't respond to it and just kind of like threw it back at him later in the debate.
Yeah, that was fun too.
That's the best way to do it, is because he wants that response. He wants to piss people off and get like an upset response. He's almost like a boomer troll in a way.
Yeah,
but I
kind of got those vibes too.
Yeah, and that's all that I had as a observation for something. I'm like, if this, like having this experience clearly shows me that like there's the layer of logical scientific theory debate that's happening, but especially with creationism, right? Because if this not like a theistic evolutionist, right? He's not like debating the minutia of the arguments. He's really debating a 6,000-year-old Earth. So like at that point, it's like, what? You have to get into the politics of it. Because otherwise you do, and I see this, that's why I'm like so sad about how so many different debates with people like that get into a circular argument of here's my evidence and here's why this evidence makes more sense than your evidence. And here's why, well, we can't really trust that. And like, it gets back into this trust element that we have in society, because right, none of us are doing this research, but you trust people that you're sending the sources to. And if people don't trust those institutions inherently, there's nothing you can really say that'll like, from what I understood growing up, like that can convince someone. You have to get deeper into like why they believe it in the first place to make it seem silly.
That was something that's something that I struggled with growing up.
And you did that at the end there. When you were asking him about the going back and forth about time, like, and I think at some point you mentioned like, how can time be the god or something?
Yeah.
Like clipped it because it was so funny.
All right. Let's continue.
It doesn't have anything to do with the flood covering the earth for a year. So sure, I think a lot of trees would have survived the flood, and so we may have trees with 4, 5, 6,000 rings, because the Bible teaches the earth is 6,000 years old, but that's not the purpose of the debate tonight. How would tree rings be evidence for evolution, though?
Oh, so what I'm doing is I'm trying to set up that we can observe time changing in the natural world around us. We don't have to always immediately perceive something for it to exist.
Right. I don't have to. All humans in the history of the world have ever observed. Nobody's ever reported their cow producing a non-cow. If you know of one, I'd like to see it. So that's why I would say the collective observation of all of humans, all farmers in the world, says you plant corn, you're going to get corn. No exceptions.
Right. So just to continue on with the tree, though, if I plant a tree today, then we can say that 10 years from now, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, if that tree's still there, that we're going to be able to track its life when we cut it down to look at its rings, right? We can speculate on that, right?
That's why I said the rings are not always annual. They generally are.
I didn't say they were annual. I said we could look at them to determine that time passed. We can speculate that tree will have rings 200 years from now. And we can track the passage of time through it, right?
Okay.
So that observation and that speculation from your argument is impossible. Evolution is not saying that a cow is going to give birth to a scorpion. It doesn't say.
Dude, it makes me so happy that you actually recognize that this is what Kent's argument is when you fucking you clear all the bullshit out of it. Because this is what I've been saying.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me so happy when I heard that. Because like that's exactly what it is. I mean, he is intentionally vague by saying terms like non-dog and like produce. We never seen we never seen a dog produce a non-dog, but you say that a dog and like an insect had a common ancestor. That's a conflation of two different things, because you're talking about an animal giving birth in one generation and you're comparing that to animals changing over millions of generations, millions of times giving birth, and you're acting like those are the same thing almost, because you're saying it in the same sentence and you're using these really vague terms. But his argument boils down to, we've never observed, so no human has ever seen. Evolution is false and shouldn't be taught in the schools, because no human in the history of human lifetime and recorded speech or text has ever observed with their own eyeballs a dog giving birth to a scorpion. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes evolution false. That's not what evolution teaches. It's a complete straw man. And that's his entire fucking premise. It's so ridiculous. So
yeah. Honestly, like on reflection at this moment, I felt like I was standing on like a pile of sand, and I was like really scared that this wasn't going to land. I'm
hilarious.
So glad it did.
Yeah, that's funny. Man. You know, it's funny because when I did my last debate against Kent, I thought I did fucking horrible afterwards. Mm-hmm. But Mark Reed went through the debate and watched it with me again, and pointed out to me, sort of like we're doing now, the parts that I did well on. And because a big problem with my debate was that Kent basically was steamrolling me. He kept over talking me and interrupting me while Donnie watched on and did nothing, as if, you know, you saw a woman getting beaten in a public park and just stood there and did nothing. That's basically what Donnie does daily. He's a monster, effectively. He should be in jail.
I mean, like, while you're saying that, I like my gaze look down at Donnie, and he's like smirking. Like every time I look down, he's got one of those little rat looks on.
Look how guilty he looks. That's a guilty man right there. He is accomplice with Ken Hovind. But I mean, he makes money from these streams. The Q&A section, people send questions and they send super chats. And so I know from doing YouTube what you can make from an average stream getting super chats, and it can be quite a bit depending on how active the video is, or just how many people are in the stream, or what time of day it is. A lot of different factors. And so, you know, that's why I get a little suspicious. I give Kent a bit of a side eye when I see him constantly challenging atheists to debate, and I'm like, are you debating so much because you're like getting a cut from these super chats? I don't think he is. I think he just likes the attention and getting his face out there, and he wants to constantly involve himself in the atheist drama, which is smart on his part. But I don't know. Like, clearly Donnie is basically does nothing and makes money. He's immoral, and it should be illegal.
Oh, yeah, that's a pretty good summation.
I'm just kidding.
I think Donnie's a really nice guy. I actually love talking with him in the pre and post.
Me and Donnie are friends.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. I just I agree with you. Like, it is really disgusting the way like he handles some of these things. Like I noticed, you know, during Kennedy's, when Kennedy was like, "Dude, you've literally got this on your screen right now," and Donnie didn't immediately jump in to like put a stop to it and make Kent explain like what he's actually trying to communicate there. Like, you know, that kind of stuff is just ridiculous.
Oh, you mean with the Negro part?
Yeah, like it's absolutely completely unnecessary.
Well, you know, I think I was going to say this earlier, but I'm trying to keep the pacing of the video up where I'm not like constantly pausing. But I think young Earth creationism, Kent's version of it, or just young Earth creationism in general, is inherently racist in its philosophy, because if you think about it, what you're doing with YEC is you're taking the scientific consensus, which is the out of Africa theory, which says that humans came from Africa. We have ancestors with Australopithecines and Homo erectus and Homo habilis, and the majority of Homo was dark-skinned, and it wasn't until we migrated to areas that were not so sun-drenched that we were able to have less melanin in our skin. And you're replacing that with saying that Adam and Eve were the first two humans, that they were white, and black people evolved from those two humans, and those two humans were made perfect in God's image, and they fucked up, and now the fall happened, and we humans had got original sin, and now we have black people, or now after Cain, in the mark of Cain, and all this racist shit that's in the Bible.
And I think the only reason it doesn't get coded as racist is because most religions have creationist stories that technically can be true of, depending on how nuanced you want to get. Like I use the idea of dehumanization. Like if you have an idea that like some god takes over and has a chosen people, then you have to inherently dehumanize the other that is not in that group. And because that then allows for Africans to be just as racist, for example, about this stuff, or people in other parts of the world, because I think inherently it is, I agree with you, political to believe that your chosen group is special and that what we have for evidence is not. And that's why I can't, the logic of it doesn't even make sense. And with Donnie, if I can quickly add, like, I loathe the fact that, like, unfortunately, there is not like an atheist who's doing this, like hosting debate. Like Dylan did his thing for a little bit, and there's James and him, and like that they're all actually Christian. So I think it's hopefully one day we can have like a non-believer secular person that can like host debates to make that more prevalent. But
I will make a counterpoint to that, Kennedy, and say that my friend Snake was right, has a channel called Debate Cafe. It's a smaller channel, but he's
I
an
think
atheist.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and
Snake was right. I think I follow him. Okay.
Also, Amy Newman, she's a good friend of mine who helped me get started on YouTube, and she's a trans woman. Her and James W. I believe they host some debates, but not that often. But Snake was right. He has an email group, and if you want, I'll send you the email and the channel link. I actually did a debate with him, or it was more of a discussion, just talking about gender politics on his channel. And me and him did a tag team debate where we were on a team debating these two dumbass creationists on just like evolution. And one of them didn't think that dogs and wolves were related. Like,
that's fun. Yeah, I know Amy Newman, so that'll
Amy's awesome.
This is good. Okay. I'm from watching videos, so I'll follow her. I'm glad to know that is a thing. Should promote that more.
Yeah. Non sequitur show definitely imploded. I agree with you though that they're, but that's why I even do these debate reviews. So even these videos, like if people want to watch this video without contributing to Donnie's channel or Kent's channel, they can watch this video and send me their views and watch time. If they would rather send it towards an atheist or somebody who makes content like I do. But anyway.
It says that if you take a cow and you subject it to a different environment from which it has come about in over a long period of time, if you change its material conditions for a significant portion of time, then that cow will express variation. You see this in coloring. You see this when farmers specifically breed them to have a higher muscle content or thinner hides to make them easier for butchering. Every part of this is observable immediately and through speculation of the future and the past. So I'm just confused. Like, what do you fundamentally mean about observation? Because if we can observe that time passes, then we can also apply that to other processes. I'm just curious where you draw the line on that.
Okay. We can observe farmers have produced a variety of cows, and we've observed that they seem to hit a limit. They've been trying to get cows to give more milk. I was in Kankakee, Illinois, and got to meet the record cow milk giver that year, 100 pounds a day.
You got to meet the cow? It's not a person, Kent. I was so upset that he didn't tell his joke here because I've heard Kent say this story about 10,000 times. And what he usually does is he says, oh, 100 pounds of milk a day, utterly ridiculous. And
that would have just gone right over my head. I'm going to be real with you. Oh, God.
Same.
I was
Same.
Dude, I was fucking pissed.
Dude. I think I let myself
Do you
get
think
too,
they will ever get a
let him go on too much. You know what I mean?
Well,
I let him talk way too much for this part.
I mean, that's literally everybody struggles with that against Kent. I mean, it is what it is. Like, that's just part of debating Kent.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about kissing the frog definitely went over your head, though.
Yeah, it probably did.
Because Kent's, he's saying, oh, if you kiss a frog, if the frog turns into a human quickly, that's a fairy tale. Like, you kiss a frog and it turns into a prince in the fairy tale. But if a frog turns into a human slowly, that's science. He's saying that evolution claims that a modern frog evolved into a modern human, which is not true. So that's...
Oh, okay. I was wondering, what he meant by that. I was like...
Yeah.
I was literally in my head, I was like, do you think Princess and the Frog is real? Should I call you out on this right now?
I thought it was funny the way you handled that too, because it's like, yeah, it's a fairy tale. And it's I thought that was, yeah. That's why I'm saying for not knowing all of Kent's stupid jokes and tricks, I thought, you get a lot of points from me for how you handled them. Because I've seen a lot of people who come in. I don't think that Kent loses all of his debates. I've seen Kent Hovind win debates against people multiple times. Sometimes it's by default, but I've seen atheists, people who I would like to have done better, tank against Kent because he's an experienced debater. It's a lot harder than it looks. And so that's why I celebrate debates like this, and I want to help people get better at it, basically, because I get comments of people saying there's no point in debating Kent. Why does anybody debate Kent? I'm like, no, I agree with you. I agree. But people are debating him. So pragmatically, if people are going to debate him, then I am going to use whatever influence I can to try and help those people not fuck up. You know what I mean? Because it drives me insane watching those debates. Like, I get anxiety, and the vein in my neck starts to stick out, and the room starts to spin. It's not good,
Right. Yeah, I will say that was something that I was kind of worried about. I even still am. I don't want to ever fuel a machine that is this person's brand. You know what I mean? Because it's crazy. It completely separates people from reality, and I feel like there's kind of to go back to earlier, you guys were talking about why aren't more atheists doing this or hosting these things? On some level, I feel this ingrained repulsion of the idea of giving their ideas any space at all, because when you do, the people who are more often responding to power dynamics and actual arguments, they're going to fall down that rabbit hole. And unfortunately, people like Ken are the start of those pipelines.
Yeah, for a long time, there was the narrative of, you shouldn't debate creationists, or specifically scientists shouldn't debate creationists, which is probably true. I would probably agree with that. But I'm not a fucking scientist. YouTube debates are just for entertainment as far as I'm concerned. And Kent Hovind, again, is out here and he's doing these debates. So I think trying to just say, oh, well, nobody should debate Kent Hovind, nobody should debate creationists, I don't really agree with that. It was around the time that Bill Nye debated Ken Ham. I don't know if you've seen that debate.
Oh yeah, I wrote a 5-page paper on it. Don't worry, I know exactly which one you're talking about.
I would love to read it if you could send it to me. I'd be happy to read that.
Maybe. I was 16, so it's not exactly coherent, but I appreciate the enthusiasm.
Wow, that sounds interesting to me. Yeah, Bill Nye could have done better, but Ken Ham basically lost that debate more than Bill Nye won it. Yeah.
How to give 10,000 tons of milk a day? Do you think that is there a limit someplace?
You know what, man? I have no idea, but I think it would be cool if we could get a cow that could produce that much milk. That'd be nuts. But you know what? I will concede that there is probably a limit to what a single animal can do. But I didn't say that you can breed animals to produce an infinite amount of produce. Never made that claim.
Okay. Do you believe a single-celled creature like this textbook shows, a single-celled creature produced the human body with 100 trillion cells? Average human.
Kent, you were, that literally is describing your own birth, Kent. Like a zygote, you know. Why is that so outlandish when you know that human beings start off with two gametes joining, an egg gets fertilized, and then you have a single cell that divides and becomes a human that's 100 trillion cells? Why is it like, oh, that's obviously, that happened because we observed that, but it's bullshit to say that it could have possibly happened in an evolutionary context because we didn't see that. Well, okay.
Yeah, when he started going down this, I was like, where are we going right now, dude? When he threw out the like 10,000 tons, I was like, that's not a cow, my man. That's like a machine.
Yeah, that's like a cow with like machine gun udders.
That's more robot than beast. Yeah.
Robo cow. Yeah, we're going. We don't need roads.
You asking me if you can count the individual cells?
Well, the current estimate is that the average human has 100 trillion cells in their body.
Okay.
Do you think a single cell creature evolved into the humans, which have 100 trillion cells? Do you believe that?
Over the course of billions of years, yeah.
That's where it's not science. You don't observe that. You never see an amoeba or a protozoa produce anything other than its protozoa.
Sure, so because the process to take a single cell organism and turn it into a multicellular and then a multi-system organism is extremely complicated and takes a huge amount of time and resources. I have no doubt that in the future we might be able to create those systems that could make it immediately easy to observe that. Right now we don't. All we can do is look at the tree and say, hey, time has passed. We can see the changes that have happened. We specifically are able to breed bacteria in such a way that they're more efficient at producing things. For instance, the bacteria that produces insulin, nowadays it produces it more cheaper because, or less expensive, I guess.
I'm glad that you caught that because that bothered me too. Also.
Yeah, it came out of my mouth and I was like, oh, I sound so stupid right now.
There are so many people where I live that would have just said that and just kept on rolling, basically.
Man, maybe I should have. I don't know. I don't know. It's real embarrassing that I literally stopped in the middle of my like otherwise beautiful freeform thought to correct my grammar. Ugh.
Well, no, I think it's good. It shows that you're willing to correct a mistake and admit that you got something wrong. Kent is not willing to admit that he has made a mistake ever or accept correction or criticism on anything. He gets defensive because he's a narcissist. So
that's fair. So here's my question, and this might take a second, so we can hold on to this and come back to it if you want.
Yeah, well, we're probably going to go for like about 15 more minutes and like the hour mark, and then we'll probably wrap it up if that sounds okay to you guys.
Totally fine. Yeah, let's go ahead.
Go ahead, Evan. Were you going to say something?
Oh, yeah. So I guess like I've noticed, so dang, this is a bit more complicated than I thought it would be. So growing up, I started out like as a hardcore Christian. Like there was a period of time where I was probably more in line with Kent than I am with anybody else. And growing up, one of the things I realized is that like I was more responding to his personality, because like if you pay attention to how he's presenting himself, especially at the beginning up to pretty much this point, he's going for that like patient grandfather who is like willing to put you down, right? And what brought me out of that was pretty much my like rebellious phase, where I realized that that's all a facade. And there's a lot of people out there who haven't realized that. So I guess, like, my question to, like anybody who's actually debating people like this is what is your goal when you're talking to them? Because my goal was to create this image that made people feel comfortable asking questions. Because, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, if I may respond first.
Go ahead. Take as much time as you need.
I'll be really quick on that one because I think with online streaming, because you said something earlier, like part of this is entertainment, but it's entertainment to a point, because we're doing specific types of like entertainment around topics, like, and depending on what your goal is, there's like way more of a political thing behind that, like entertainment with both of what we're doing. Like Kent's obviously avoiding tax issues and needing his finance to get whatever he can. But for us, I think we obviously have problems with ultimately creationism trickling into like the spaces where we live. Like, I don't think any of us would be doing this if like some of what creationism is didn't actually trickle into our lives and the societies we live in. Like, because I don't pay attention. Like flat Earth debates, I know they exist, but like they're a complete utter waste of my time because it's not politically like maneuvering anything in my life.
Right. Just, like where's the entertainment value is something that literally holds no sway over you. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
and I feel like at that point you have to gauge how political your thing is, and then like how you like. For me, I wanted to have a conversation where I was throwing out shit that had never been said before in one of Kent's debates, and that was my goal to do that, and I felt successful in that goal to throw out like sociological, anthropological debates as someone who's listened to like so many of them and not heard that. That was my goal, and wherever it went with that, I have to gauge within it. And if that's what your goal was to make him seem like he was being ridiculous, or what did you say your goal was? To make him seem like he was this calm. He was coming up. This persona as this calm grandpa is like clearly fickle, and you need to like you did a good job of that. You did a good job of making him seem like a
creepy grandpa.
Yeah,
good. I'm so glad that translated. I thought like the only point that I think I did that in my own head that I did that really well was when that like that literal child asked a question, and like on some level I feel kind of dirty for kind of like manipulating my presentation, but like
you didn't do that.
I know that like that kid probably has this perception of what atheists are, and acting the way that I think we act in debates would have only fueled that and prevented her and other people in that audience from like engaging with things in a way that's like healthy. I don't know, maybe this is because like I'm more academically inclined nowadays, but like one of the things that really, really frustrates me about debates is that more often than not, you're not really going into it because you're searching for some like new perception of where reality actually lies. What you're really doing is you're comparing personalities.
Right.
And I think like that is so boring. It's exhausting. Like, I don't know.
It's like measuring dicks.
Yeah, like, why would I want to do that? I got the biggest one in the room. Leave me alone, my guy. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But see, now that just killed my train of thought.
Sorry.
What Kennedy said, when I was in high school, I didn't have an evolution section in my curriculum. I didn't learn about evolution in high school because when I was in high school was when Don McLeroy, it was one of the last years that he was head of the Texas Board of Education. And it wasn't until after I graduated and I found R and Ra's videos on YouTube and some other channels like Professor Dave and National Center for Science Education website, and that I actually learned about evolution. And I was annoyed that I didn't have this stuff taught because of a politically motivated campaign by these people. I mean, Don McLeroy is a dentist. And this guy literally said that evolution teaches that a spider came from a rock. And he was the head of the Board of Education for my state of Texas. And Arnrod debated him and absolutely destroyed this guy, of course. So
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing really, really quickly, because the flip side of like that, of like having that high school experience, and it seems like most people that I meet like believed in some sort of like Christian conservatism and like came out of it, and versus like my whole experience was being taught by people who claimed to be Christian but didn't hold those beliefs, like Jesuits and like social progressives, people in like the Presbyterian, or what's the other E word for that church, like people who did Episcopalian, yeah, like people who did not really, would just be like, yeah, maybe Jesus didn't rise from the dead, maybe fine, maybe he's not this, or maybe this belief in evolution is fine. Like people who taught schools and grew up with that, that's what I thought, never even having believed. So like it has become a shock to me to see that like these, like the people who are in academia, like they don't, the problem is they don't care enough, because this stuff is political, and they're just like, oh, fuck it. Oh, excuse me. Screw it. To a lot of this.
It's okay. Yeah. I don't mind.
They don't take it seriously on both sides. And I think they're just letting a lot of stuff fester that then builds the foundations for belief systems that they're not even recognizing. Like not caring about flat earth, like people rising up, is like the reason that they're rising up, and the academics do have to care about it, because that's the reason we're doing this. They should be getting paid to like counteract those forces, because Kent's definitely getting paid by right-wing figures and probably a politician somewhere. You know what I'm saying? They need to be doing that for us, because that's why we're forced to fulfill this role, is because the academics are writing papers feeling like this doesn't matter. But the only reason they have to keep struggling and getting those grants for papers is because of this stuff. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, this is probably completely unrelated, but I don't know, AJ, you moderate where this discussion goes. This is probably something Kennedy and I do on our stream, so feel free to interrupt this.
Oh, I have no problem with you guys giving some finishing thoughts. I am very fucking tired because I did 2 streams today, so you guys go ahead, and I'm basically just going to end the video and go take a nap. So
okay, well, hey man, it was awesome meeting you. Yes, I'd love to come on again sometime, chat with you some more.
We better.
And
absolutely.
Also, I'm sure Kennedy Scarlett and I would love to have you on too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Heck yeah.
Send me your links so I can put them in the description and stuff, because I don't know what they are. So
you got it,
Kennedy. You got it.
Yeah, you can send me those on Twitter. Heck yeah, man. And I'll have you guys' links in the description and the pinned comment. And I never get to watch as much of the debates as I want to in these videos, but we got through about 45 minutes of it. I would say for anybody who hasn't seen Evan's debate, I definitely recommend watching the rest of it, because it gets really good towards the end. It's like right when it was getting good, it gets cut off, I felt like.
I also was getting like exhausted. Like, so like you can actually like track my agitation with Kent and like my exhaustion from working a 10-hour day that day, like throughout that conversation. And like when I'm having to, when I stop and I'm literally like, sorry, I'm getting really agitated, I need to step off. Like I was really about to go after him. And like
that's impressive.
We got to the point. Thank you. I'm working real hard on that emotional awareness, but I was like, I can't do this anymore, man. Like I am so tired of hearing you talk.
It's exhausting to talk to. It's exhausting talking to Kent.
Yeah. Especially when like he literally just stopped listening to anything I said. Like the beginning, I kind of felt like he was a little bit. And then at the end, it was like, all right, dude. All right. And then the questions also, like, I don't know if you noticed this, but most of them were geared towards playing like a gotcha with me. Like the audience was trying to like catch me up on something.
That's exactly what they do. The audience is biased towards, the whole thing is rigged, dude. The whole audience is a bunch of Donnie's mods. That's exactly what they do. They don't ask questions that are relevant to the debate. They're just like, hey, what's the name of this vaccine from the 80s? Like, you can't Google it. And I'm gonna like dunk you in a pit of water if you don't get the question right. It's like,
yeah,
just gotchas, you know.
Like, what was up with that one question? I was like, do you know about these 3 very specific examples of things that prove something?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
It's not the point of Q&A. Like,
yeah. Like, bro, ask me questions about like my internal thoughts. Like, let's really get into a conversation here. Let's develop a relationship. And that was exhausting. I really tried to like force that with the few questions I got that were like actually good. But
yeah. Well, Kennedy is right about there needs to be more debate platforms. Maybe I should start one on my channel. But thank you guys so much for joining me, and thank you to the people in the chat, people who are watching this video on replay, and I will just see you guys in the next one.
Awesome.
Bye.